Meeting of the Finance Committee to order. The date is February 15th. The time is 3:02. With us today, we have Alderman Tolliver, Alderwoman Bade, Alderman Warman, Alderman Bug, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 24-0059, approval of the minutes for the Finance Committee meeting held on January 25th, 2024.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bade, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
No, sir.
Okay. And we'll go on to the agenda items. 24-0098, an ordinance reserving 2024 volume cap in connection with private activity bond issues and related matters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer for the city. Enclosed in the packets this afternoon is an ordinance retaining the city's private activity bond volume cap for 2024. Under IRS rules regarding tax exempt debt, those rules allow bonds for certain private development activities to be issued on a tax-exempt basis for projects that otherwise would not qualify for tax-exempt financing. These development projects typically advance economic development purposes and typically take the form of industrial development revenue bonds and single or multifamily mortgage revenue bonds. Each year, the city must pass an ordinance reserving its private activity bond limit, also referred to as volume cap, or that volume cap will revert back to the state of Illinois in May. The city's volume cap for 2024 is approximately $22.2 million based on the IRS allotted amount of $125 per resident. Passage of the ordinance that's in the packets this afternoon would allow the city the maximum flexibility to utilize its volume cap in conjunction with any eligible projects that would arise during calendar year 2024. Staff does recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Questions or comments from the committee? Alderman Bug.
Yeah, thank you for this. I was going to calculate it myself real quick. Looking at our unfortunate census number that we're using, if we used our previous number, we'd be up by 203,000, additional 25,000 people at $125 per head. That would give us a substantially larger.
Yes.
I was going to calculate the number here, but.
Yes, it would.
I don't want to depress myself.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do need to use the estimates that are calculated by the Census Bureau, and we don't actually set those populations. The state actually does. It's a state program, and they go right to the U.S. Census Bureau data.
Okay, and so when and if we do a special census or take whatever action, and those numbers come back up, say in 2 years, we're back up near 200,000, we'll be able to.
Yes, that would be reflected in the volume cap allocation for whatever year those take effect and are certified by the Census Bureau.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. So
Yes.
when we did this in 2023, for the
Yes.
2023 whatever eligible projects, can you name a couple that we put money of that issuance towards?
I don't believe that we had any during 2023, and actually, my personal experience with the volume cap has been that there are few projects that actually utilize this as a vehicle. Quite simply, over time, the spread between taxable and non-taxable interest rates or tax-exempt interest rates has not been significant enough for it to make a huge difference in a project. If there's a project that is typically going forward anyway, they may utilize this as a vehicle to try to reduce those costs. However, as mentioned, it's rarely the item that represents either a go or a no-go decision for a particular project. What this does, though, is it does allow the city to maintain the flexibility during the year in case a project were to arise that that would find this advantageous. Additionally, I have had instances in my career where there have been projects in a different community than the town I was working for, where they needed more they needed more volume cap than that individual community had. And I have actually been part of a transaction where we've sold volume cap on behalf of one community to be utilized at a project in another. And typically, there's a commission that will be paid to the community providing excess volume cap. So while we may or may not end up with a project, it's typically a good step to take just to maintain that flexibility in case one of those situations arises during a year.
Okay, so based on what you're saying, right now, we don't have any anticipated use, but something could arise over the next 12 months.
I'm currently not aware of anything on the horizon.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Warman, second by Alderman Bug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Next item is 23-0836, a resolution authorizing the execution of real estate contracts to purchase properties and appropriate Rebuild Illinois bond funds required for the Indian Trail signal modernization and resurfacing Echelon to Highland project in the amount of $9,350.
Good afternoon, Alderman. I'm Alex Nugent with the Engineering Division. So this one is going to be for the purchase of right-of-way from 3 different parcels along Indian Trail as part of our Indian Trail Signal Modernization and Resurfacing Program, which goes from Edgelawn Drive to Highland Avenue. We've come to you before. It was passed in November at City Council to get right-of-way from 8 different parcels. This will be 3 additional parcels, and there is still 1 more outstanding before we are fully clear right-of-way from this project. We're hoping to clear everything. There's still a railroad agreement outstanding, and hope to make it to letting in April, realistically probably June or a little bit later this summer.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Bates, second by Alderman Bug. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And it passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is 24-0109, a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement with Mark Radina and Archetype Stained Glass for the lease of office space and art studio at 7 South Broadway in Aurora.
Good afternoon, Patrick Collins, Assistant Corporation Counsel with the City of Aurora. In your packet would be the lease, and there should be a presentation of some of the past work that Mr. Radina has done. He's here as well. He's been in the space for a long time. Gary Brown, the art studio that was there before, unfortunately, he had to terminate his lease, and this is kind of a holdover that we just need to make sure we have in place. The lease will be a month to month. As you know, the RFP is going out for a lot of those sections on that block, and until that time, it's good to have a tenant in there with the insurance and maintaining the property. I'm here and can answer any questions, and Mr. Radina is here as well.
Questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah.
Alderman Bug.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll ask you, and if
Sure.
the tenant wants to chime in, he can. What was the previous rental amount from Mr. Brown to?
Mr. Brown's rent was actually like $1 a month. It was very minimal.
No, to the subtenant.
We were not part of that agreement.
Okay.
So I'm not aware. I believe they had something worked out. If he wanted to say he could. Gary Brown's lease was different, as he had to put in a lot of infrastructure into the building and had to pay in a bunch of stuff on that.
Of course, in any of these things, we're trying to get just to some type of fair market rent. That's of course the hope.
Yep.
So $400. Yeah, I don't know.
And then we'll include, he's also paying the real estate taxes on that, as well as the
Oh, yeah.
SSA.
Yeah, I understand.
And the insurance. And the insurance on the, he's not utilizing the entire building, but we'll have insurance on the entire building, which is much larger than what he's actually using. I believe the $400 figure was kind of figured out with the Office of Economic Development in conjunction with the law department and the tenant.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Alderman Bay, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Yep.
Next item, 240103, resolution to approve a demolition and remediation contract with American Demolition Corporation of Carroll Stream, Illinois for the former YMCA structures at 460 to 480 Garfield Avenue.
Good afternoon, Alderman. John Curley, Chief Development Services Officer. This item is to demolish and remediate the former YMCA building. The city does not own this property. We have been granted by Circuit Court the ability to demolish the property. And in having been given that authority, we put a RFP out on the street in December. Received back several bids, 7 or 8 bids, and the lowest responsible bid that I'm recommending is from American Demolition in the amount of $1,482,390 with a timeline of 160 days to complete the project. I did lay out, there were a couple of bids that were lower than that number, and I laid out the rationale for why those were not responsive bids in our opinion. The first, the lowest number was from a contractor that did not have an apprenticeship program, so they did not meet the qualifications of the RFP in the first place. The second lowest number did not provide us any unit prices, and why that's important is because it would leave us vulnerable to price inflation for undisclosed or undetermined amounts of material that needs to be remediated. Part of the challenge, and why that's really important on this project, part of the challenge with, and a little bit of history on the building, is that when the Y was built, they exposed a spring in the basement of the Y, and it's been being pumped out since the building was built, believe it or not. The reason the building was condemned in 2018, or 2019, I'm sorry, was that those pumps failed, the basements filled with water. Unfortunately, their electric gear was in one of the sub-basements, started a fire, and it was kind of a domino effect from there. So the basement is actually full of water right now, and we cannot currently do a remediation assessment from which this would be primarily asbestos abatement in the basement. Because it's full of water, and we need to basically stop the spring or plug a well, more or less, so that the basement could dry out, the assessment could take place. So it's kind of a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing going on here. Without the unit prices from that second lowest number, our opinion is it's not a responsive bid, and it leaves us exposed to potential inflation of those prices. So our recommendation is for American Demolition in those numbers that I gave you. There is a long history of violations at this property. There have been 40 violations in the last decade. We've had more than 7 known trespass and break-in events since we condemned the building in the first place, and the building poses a safety threat to our emergency responders as it currently sits. So we're anxious to move forward, and the court's finally agreed that we can move forward and demolish the building.
So, John, I have a question for you. I guess you get 2 questions. They're allowing us to do this. We don't know it. Somebody else owns it. They haven't stepped up to the plate and done what they should have done. When it's all said and done, are we going after them to pay our expenses for this? How does that work?
That's really a legal question, but we will be pursuing what we can, I'm sure.
Patrick Council, Assistant Corporation Counsel, City of Aurora. We will. There is absolutely, we'll put a lien on the building, and then depending on next step process, I believe with what's going on in the court case, there is an underlying mortgage on some part of the property, and like one of the floors somewhere of it. They would have a lien on the property. The city's lien would be a priority lien because it's money that the government spent in order to maintain or take care of the property. So we'd have the priority lien on it and can then either foreclose on that lien or potentially sell the building. But at the closing table, our costs would get paid off. So we do have an avenue where this would be all recouped.
Okay. And then, so I guess along those lines, I would guess this question I have would be for you again. So regardless if they pay up or we take them to court, because it's not our property, who would have the say in what to do with that land going forward? Would that depending on how this court case comes out?
Yes.
Okay.
We would have a priority lien on it, and most likely, it would be up to the city to choose how they would proceed to elect. Most likely, they're going to proceed to, the property's already condemned, they foreclose on the loan, basically.
I think another avenue to also consider, and partially answer your question, Alderman, is that the site as it sits now has a PDD approval for high-intensity training use, if you recall. It's been that way for a while, it's three or four owners ago. That PDD, especially in light of the fact that the building and the part of the exhibit for the final plan that was approved with that zoning is not going to happen because the building won't be there. The entitlement will need to come back through for council approval and need a public hearing in order to change it. So there will be some oversight and some control that the city still has on what happens with the building, no matter our ownership.
Right, okay, good, thank you. Questions, Alderwoman Bade?
Thank you, Chairman Franco. Thank you, John, for giving us the background of the situation of the building and also so many undesirable things happening in that area. Just wanted to know, is this the typical price range for demolition, or this particular building, it's being charged more because of the other things like the water in the basement?
Well, we did get a significant number of bids, and if you look at the numbers, this is a number that's slightly less than the median of the numbers that were received. So I believe it's a competitive number due to that. It is a very large project. There are some unknowns because of the remediation issues that can't be assessed, and the assessment is actually part of the project as well. So we have something in there that's an allowance of a $500,000 allowance for that work, the assessment work, and the remediation, which will happen before the large cranes start knocking concrete down.
My second question was, are these type of projects eligible for any type of grants? Because again, it is creating a nuisance over there, and we are trying to prevent any future.
We have been watching, a couple departments and divisions in my group watch for grants all the time. We have attained recently some grants for residential demolitions that are causing blight, have not found one that's a match for this type of a project. So I'm not aware of any grants that would be a match for this demolition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman
Motion.
Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank John and his staff for all the work they've done on this. This is obviously in the fourth ward and a primary concern to the neighborhood that surrounds us. So this is going to be good news for a lot of people, and thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Alderman Buck.
Council, so thanks for going through some of that analysis. I hate to go worst case scenario, but if this owner just during our court case just files bankruptcy, I mean, we're just going to be,
Well, so the lien would go on the property, and then there would be a sheriff's sale. And the sheriff's sale, worst case scenario, opening bid would be the amount that we're owed. So then the city owns that property, and then we can develop it to whatever we want, sell it to someone for whatever we want, or however that works. Another scenario could be then it goes to a sheriff's sale, the opening bid is what we're owed, and somebody pays more on that. Multiple people are bidding on it, and we would get paid off from the sale of it then.
okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Wait, Alderman, go ahead, Alderman Tolliver.
So, assuming that this gets passed through all the city councils and everything like that, how soon are they looking to start doing this?
Well, the bid amount they gave us was 160 days. There is some remediation and state approvals that need to happen in there, so I would anticipate slightly more time likely than the 160 days. But that's what we would be shooting for, is somewhere close to that 160 that they proposed to us as part of their proposal.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion by Alderwoman Bay. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it passes 5-0. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
Next item is 24-0087, a resolution authorizing approval of the 2024 Historic Preservation Grants and allowing the mayor to enter into historic preservation grant agreements and addendums.
Hey, good afternoon, Jill Morgan with Zoning and Planning. I'm just going to, if it's okay with the committee, go over a summary of it, since I will also be doing this at COW, and some of the BZ members have already seen it. So this is to allow the mayor to execute the agreement for the preservation grants for 2024. Just to kind of remind everyone, we revamped the program back in 2019. The current program is a maximum grant amount of $20,000 with a $1,000 bonus if you use a local contractor. It's for exterior work only and for properties that are in the historic districts or local landmarks. Currently, we received 22 applications. The Preservation Commission is recommending bringing 14 of them forward for funding. The remaining applications were either incomplete, did not adhere to historic preservation guidelines, or really were maintenance related, and the commission didn't feel that they were really grant funding projects. This is actually not spending the entire amount allocated for the grants, so we are going to look at doing another grant round, which actually will, I think, be beneficial to allow homeowners another opportunity to get cost estimates. That's been one of the biggest hurdles, is finding the contractors. There's not as many contractors that specialize in historic buildings, so to give them another opportunity this year. Is there any questions?
I have a question for legal. Technical. So we went through this with BZE, we passed the resolution. We have the same exact resolution today. Wouldn't one be a resolution and one be for information only, or do two different committees pass a resolution? How does that work?
I believe this is for information only.
Oh, okay, it says a resolution, that's how it's
I
worded?
think it's the same resolution that went to BZ&E, but I think it's set for this as informational only.
Oh, it's down here, okay, I didn't see it in the legislature, okay.
Because
I
it's
see
the
it. Okay, That makes
unbudgeted
sense.
amount going out, they
right.
bring it to finance.
all right, good, I thought that was perfect. That's exactly what I needed to know, sorry about that. Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, that's a good point. Normally, there on our agenda, it would say.
Yeah, and I see it on the paper copy,
Yeah.
just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't see it on there, so,
Right on
yeah,
there, yeah.
all right, that's fine. I just make sure everything was good. So I'm sorry, we have a motion by Alderwoman Bay. Do we have a
Oh, no
second?
motion, it's informational only.
Information only, I think.
Oh, that's right,
No,
okay, what am I doing? All right.
Unless you want to overrule these.
Well,
That's up
no,
to you.
Alderwoman Smith would be very angry with me, so we won't go there. So, any other questions for Jill? And we will have a presentation with all the.
Yeah, I'll show the actual, the 14 projects
All right,
at
thank you so
COW.
much.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there we got a motion. Oh, perfect. We got a motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Bay. We have a second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned at 3:24.